So what I'm going to do is kind of give a status and update on Wisconsin specialty crops. Potato is our biggest specialty crop. One of our panelists this afternoon is Larry Alstom, a potato producer, as well as he ships and sends them around the country. In the U.S., Wisconsin's got a big potato industry. Idaho and Washington are big. Wisconsin's number 3. And the way I always like to describe it to people is Wisconsin's the biggest of the little guys. There's a lot of little guys out there: Minnesota, Oregon, Colorado, North Dakota, and Wisconsin. Here's sort of a history of potatoes in Wisconsin since 1950. I'm trying to get a sense of where the industry's been, and then we'll zoom in on the last few years. What you see on harvested acres there in the top left, there was a big peak in the late 90s. That's when our potato acres really hit a big one, and then they came down. There was a lot of consolidation there in the early 2000s. It was a rough time to be a potato grower. Yields on the right top there, they've been going up, up, up. It's like a lot of things, but we've kind of starting to level off there between like 400 and 460 hundredweight per acre. That's been pretty solid number there. You can see it jump around with weather. Production, that's a total number of, or millions of hundredweight here, produced in the state. They kind of followed acres. And then that price trend in the bottom right there has been slowly trending upward over the years here. And you put that all together, and this is all the way up through 2016 now. What you see, this is the value. This is the acres times the dollars times the yield. And what you get is $323 million for 2016. That's a record value of potatoes produced in the state of Wisconsin. You can see that number go up. We've never done that before. That was 2016. We don't have any 2017 data. So I was like, wow, I'm understanding why the potato growers are having financially, I think they're having some good years. This is zooming into these last few years. And what you see here is production, the forecast production at the state level. This is Wisconsin. It's been creeping up the last few years. Farmers were very concerned after that sort of crash and drop in acres and prices of the early 2000s. We lost a lot of potato farmers then. Not so many acres, but potato farmers. Production, though, has been creeping up slowly. And then you can see that acreage in the bottom in green there. It really jumped in the last few years. It's the highest we've seen since 2005. So production's happening. Can't find much price data, but this is for the current year. So what I did is USDA Ag Marketing Service has some web pages. You can get very specific potato prices. So this is shipping point prices. This is what wholesale shipping for fresh potatoes coming out of central Wisconsin. These are russet 50-pound boxes, and they're called 70, so there's 70 in the box. It's a kind of a higher, it's a good potato. It's so far, compared to last year in 2015, prices for this potato have been really good. $4 a hundredweight, or almost $5 a hundredweight higher than 2016 and really 2015. So we've got high yields, high production, more acres, and prices are looking good, at least on the fresh market. I don't have anything on the contract, our processing potatoes, making chips and French fries and such. So I think potatoes are having a good year. We'll leave that. Cranberry, not so much so. There's probably not much for cranberry people here. They're having an association meeting right now up in the Dells. Cranberry production was down about 8% last year in the state. And that top red line is Wisconsin in terms of millions of barrels, and that green line is everybody else. Wisconsin in 2016, we did 62% of the U.S.'s cranberries. We basically grow about half of the world's cranberries in the state here. A little bit less, but basically half. And everyone's down a little bit on production. Last year, we went down almost 8%. Harvested acres, so we have about half of those acres in the state. This is harvested acres. They're a perennial crop. You got these marshes. They're little 2-3 acre marshes, a lot of them out there. You saw in the early, like the early teens, I guess, I don't know what to call that, 2012, 13, 14, we moved in, added some more acres, and everyone's been stable at about, a little over 20,000 acres in the state are harvested each year. So lower production, about the same acres. The yield, we don't have the numbers for 2017, probably going to come down a little bit, the per acre yields. But what you can see here is besides growing a lot of cranberries, we're really good at it. This is the average yield in barrels per acre in Wisconsin versus the rest of the states. You can see we have about, the last 5 years, our yields are 66% higher than everyone else's. And so we're good at cranberries, we grow a lot of them. This is our problem right here. This is the cranberry price data, the Wisconsin U.S. prices, Wisconsin in red. This is both fresh and processed, but it's primarily processed, juices and things like that. been down. It's been dropping. So about the time we expanded acres in 2012, 13, 14, you see the prices coming down. And it's been flat ever since then. You talk to cranberry growers, prices are their problem right now. We've oversupplied the market. It's back to this problem we've been talking about exports. It'd be great to have someone to buy these cranberries. What's the problem with cranberries? They're very storable. We've had you have frozen juice concentrates and frozen, you can stick them in the freezer and then they're sitting there. And so we've got a lot of stocks. They're not as perishable. And so my expectation for 2017 is production is down. Normally prices go up when production is down, but I don't see that happening. This is fresh cranberry wholesale prices for cartons shipped from Wisconsin. Very specifically, it's 24 count, 12-ounce film bags, sort of those little bags you buy at Thanksgiving time. It's 2016, 2017 prices for fresh are about the same. So we've got a drop in production of 8% and no change in prices, most likely. So the cranberry market is down and it's going to stay down. Oversupply is the problem there. Our overall value, that last year for 2016 was an upblip from the year before. I don't think we're going to see an upblip for the 2017 crop. And 2018, cranberries' problem is a lot of stocks, a lot of oversupply. So our last one we're going to touch on is our other big specialty crop. It's processing vegetables. A lot of people don't know it, but we are the #2 processing vegetable state in the country. For us, it's sweet corn, green beans, or green beans, sweet corn, and green peas, carrots for processing, not fresh market necessarily, and cucumbers. We're #2. We produce 7% of the nation's processing vegetables, but it's a distant second. It's just like the potato story there. California is #1 at 62% of processing vegetables in terms of value. It's all the canned tomatoes they do. All those canned tomatoes, that's 300,000 acres of canned tomatoes in California each year. But our big state crops on processing vegetables, snap beans in a can often. Most of our stuff is canned. Sweet corn, most of it's canned. Green peas, carrots, all that stuff, a lot of it's canned. The cucumbers, it's into pickles. This is sort of the last 5 years. We don't have 2017 data again. But the first column there is planted acres, the next one's value in millions of dollars, and the last column is sort of a farmer's value, dollars per acre of revenue generated on average across these processing crops. Planted acres are falling, 200,000 acres down to about 175 almost in 2016. I don't think we saw a big jump in those. The value of those crops has been coming down. It peaked in 2013 over the last few years. We're down 58% from that peak. Acres are down, values are down, prices. Average value went from that peak of almost $1,400 down to less than almost half. $614 is the average. So that's just the figure showing the same thing there, the value. I and Steve Deller, the next speaker, have done some stuff on the economic impact of specialty crops here in Wisconsin to get a better sense of how important the industry is to the state. So we're looking at crop production and then the processing. We have a lot of plants in the state as well. This is the 2013, 14, and 15. You kind of take some annual averages there. You can see potatoes were big. That was 271 million. I saw last year was 323, so it's much bigger than that. This is that 3-year average from a few years ago. And then it's these processing vegetables is next there. The next line is cranberries. And then it's other fruit. It's going to be primarily apples, our other big one. And that's the total revenue in that first column, what the farmers are generating in crop production. And then the processing is about $2.8 billion. That's turning the raw sweet corn into a can of sweet corn. So the total impact's about $3.5 billion. And then there's the economic multiplier effect, the jobs it generates, the money the farmers take, they buy inputs, and then they go off and spend the money, and other people get indirect multipliers from this. So there's indirect and induced effects. That's where Steve Deller comes in and helps us put a number to that. About $1 billion to the farming, and then about almost $8 billion in the processing. Put that together, it's a $5.8 billion industry for the state of Wisconsin, based off of those 3 years there. In terms of jobs, you can see with all the inducements and indirect multiplier effects, almost 25,000 jobs in that sector. The problem is it's in a decline. The first rows up there is the 2006, 7, and 8, and this is the ones below there. I'm sorry, the first column is the 6, 7, and 8, and then the next column is the repeat of the 13, 14, 15, and then how much it's changed. Crop production is still about $1 billion, but you can see the processing has come down in its economic impact, and so we're down 8% in total from those about 7 years ago. Same thing on the jobs. The jobs have really come down because there's a lot of automation going on in there. You've heard that before. Manufacturing is declining. It's all about automation. So what's the summary here for our specialty crops? Potato industry has had a great 2016, and 2017 looks good. Good yields, good acres, good production, good prices, I think. Larry can tell me otherwise. Larry Olson. My real concern is, will the potato industry oversupply the market? It's not so much here as what they could do in Idaho and Washington. We seem to be doing a good job keeping our acres under control, but don't want to have some irrational exuberances. We'll see. Cranberry industry has been struggling with low prices, and I don't see that ending. They're still struggling. State production fell. When supplies go down, you expect prices to go up. Hasn't really done much. Processing vegetables, we have no 2017 data, but crop insurance data shows we probably had a little bit higher than normal losses in terms of crop insurance losses. It was a cool, wet year, so I think they had some production problems. But we're, as a state, we are struggling with a decline due to declining demand. People just aren't eating canned vegetables, and we haven't come up with a better way to deal with that. What are we going to do with our ability to grow these kind of vegetables? So that's our processing, our specialty crop update. Steve Eller, I hope, is here. I saw him earlier, yes. So thank you very much.